So I mentioned in my previous video that this book introduced me to the idea of symbolic capital, which Musa Al-Gharbi did not originate, but did expand on a bit. But the original developer of the idea had three kinds of symbolic capital, so I want to talk about what those are, what a symbolic capitalist is. It's interesting, I'm going to mention reading Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations at the same time, but I'll have future videos on that. For now, I'm just introducing the idea, what these three kinds of symbolic capital are, what a symbolic capitalist is. And so the three kinds of symbolic capital are political capital, which is who you know who you can get to do things for you. And then academic capital, which is your ability to convince people that you have the knowledge, expertise to do a thing. And so that's normally formal credentials, work experience, or your ability to name drop books and thinkers. And then the third kind of symbolic capital, so you have political capital, academic capital, and then cultural capital, which is signaling that you can present yourself in the right way to show you're the right kind of person and you know how things are done. And Al-Gharbi says that, so basically, symbolic capitalists who have symbolic capital tend to make a living converting symbolic capital into a living. And often, most of these professions don't pay well monetarily, but they do pay really well in status. And we have overproduced people in these roles such that, again, the pay is not great, but the status is good enough that people keep doing it. And these people have a lot of influence on our society. And so based on his account of this, I would obviously be a symbolic capitalist, at least my last job. I thought I was doing actual capital, data science, and then it turns out, say, it's much more symbolic capital, which is about convincing people of things than actually building things, what Adam Smith would call capital. I obviously, as an autistic person who does not come from the actual elites, I don't have a lot of political capital. My credentials, I have 2 years of a PhD, which might actually be kind of an anti-credential in a lot of these circles, because it shows that I could not finish my PhD, and I'm going to have a video on why and how. But I do have the third kind of, and I have some work experience as a data scientist, but not like a ton. But what I do have is I have the ability to name drop books and thinkers, and I know how, for the most part, how symbolic capitalists use them, but a lot of the time they're using them wrong, and that's been an obstacle to me. Is if I tell them they're wrong, then they either get annoyed or they try to nitpick me into proving they're correct without knowing a lot about it. And I mean, one of the things I'm doing with this channel is one of the things I'm doing that I think most symbolic capitalists can't, is that I understand a lot of these thinkers and books they reference, even the ones I haven't read. I often, when I read them, I'm like, oh, yeah, I definitely understood these better than people who have claimed to have read them. And so it's one of the reasons I draw these connections between books and ideas that seem counterintuitive that other people would not, is to demonstrate I am not a symbolic capitalist in that sense. I'm not just name dropping the way that they would. I also realized I've always tried to avoid going into the symbolic capital professions as an income, because I did figure out they didn't pay well, and I didn't notice or didn't care about the status that they give, because I care about money to the extent it lets me live the life I want, but I don't want to go into a hyper-competitive job that pays poorly just for status. I don't care about that. And even for the money, I don't want to go into a hyper-competitive job. I want to figure out what I do better than anyone and take advantage of that. And so what I've always tried to do is try to do a job that would be actually more of a capitalist under Adam Smith's sense of the term. It's taken me a while, and even now, I'm still trying to convert symbolic capital into an audience, essentially, so that I can, again, the idea of this channel is if I can have enough of an audience to test my ideas and sort of think both the things I have a good idea and things I'm circling around, then I can try to figure out what is actually going to be the thing that I can launch and that's going to build actual wealth, so symbolic capital is really a zero-sum game for the most part, because it's a status game, or at least the way symbolic capitalists make money, whereas actual capital is not a status game, and so I still need to do a bit to use it. And the other interesting thing is, like, he talks about how symbolic capitalists live, and I do some of that, but generally I've thought a lot about it, and then there's things that I don't do. Like, when I lived in Turkey, I was interacting with Turks, not expats. My plan was I was going to become a Turkish citizen. I'll talk about how I got deported from Turkey in a future video. And when I moved here, I live in a mixed income neighborhood in a part of town that nobody of like what you would think as my social class lives in, which isn't like a conscious political decision. It's just what made sense for me based on not prioritizing the same things. So it's interesting to me because I'm like, I am a sort of a symbolic capitalist. I'm Schrodinger's symbolic capitalist, I kind of feel like. And I'm going to have more videos about this concept because there's a lot interesting about this idea, and there's also a lot of other interesting ideas in the book beyond just the idea of symbolic capital. And then, as I said, it connects to Adam Smith and some of his ideas too. But I wanted to introduce this idea quickly, which are the three kinds of symbolic capital, which are political, academic, and cultural. Oh, and I didn't say myself, as an autistic person, I lack a lot of cultural capital because I can't do and say the right things, but I come from, again, the class right below the elites, so I often, when I know the right thing to say, like, I often know it more than someone from a lower social class. But anyways, so I just wanted to explain those three things, the idea of how symbolic capitalism works. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm Magpie, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Nope, do not climb on my head, please. No, please. I don't want you on my head. Okay, let's